So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Kanuki back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, April 22nd, or April 27th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is April 27th. Here today, we are now 2 days away from the 2021 NFL Draft. April 29th is the draft, so 2 days away from the NFL Draft. Really exciting. Hopefully it's a good draft. Hopefully we see some action. I love to see trades, because it makes things interesting. I might think that the trade wasn't a good deal, or but anyway, even if that's not the case, even if it's a good trade or whatever, it's always fun to see trades go down. I've always liked to see trades go down in the NFL draft because in any draft, it really mixes things up. It really, it's a game changer. Like all of a sudden, a player who might have went here might all of a sudden drop 5 picks backwards, and a player might have gone, later in the first, might go earlier. So that's really that's what's so exciting, and that's what makes it so, the anticipation is because, what is this team what are you gonna do? What is this team gonna do? Right? It's a lot of guessing, a lot of predicting, but at the end of the day, it's the NFL organizations, it's the GMs, it's the owners that make the decision on who they believe is best for the team, and we'll see how all that plays out. So that's exciting. Do we even talk about the Yankees game yesterday? Ugly. We lost to the Baltimore Orioles. It's just terrible how even you can sit here and say the New York Yankees lost to the Baltimore Orioles, and not just the fact that the Orioles are a struggling team, and I get that. But the Yankees have dominated the Orioles these past couple seasons. We've put up historic numbers against the Orioles these past couple seasons. So saying that we lost to the Orioles is so frustrating to me as a Yankee fan. And to be honest, like I said, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's the truth. As Yankees fans, we are all going to sound like a broken record. We're going to say the same thing over and over again. We're not playing well. We're not hitting in big moments in the game. Our pitching was okay yesterday. Deivi Garcia did his job, 4 innings. He could have went another. Boone kind of had him on a little bit of a pitch count. He was only at 65 pitches. He could have went another inning. Deivi Garcia pitched well. He pitched pretty well. I got to admit that. But other than that, it's just been awful for us. And our hitting's been terrible, and we lose to the Baltimore Orioles. And I want to say this. Matt Harvey was on the mound. We all know Matt Harvey used to be really good with the Mets. Everyone was considering him one of the best pitchers in baseball and all that stuff, okay? He is terrible now. He's got an ERA above 5, or he did going into last night's game. And he showed previous Matt Harvey-type pitches last night. It was terrible. So, the New York Yankees looked awful last night and just didn't even look like we wanted to be there. So, a tough loss for the Yankees. Rangers played today. Nets played today. Yankees will try and bounce back. I feel like I've been saying that word millions of times this season, more than I should. Trying to bounce back. Trying to bounce back. I feel like I say that word all the time now because it's the truth. We've had so many losses this season. The next day, it's trying to bounce back. We haven't even hit 10 wins yet this season. That's really embarrassing. So, we'll see how it all plays out there. But the Yankees play today. Rangers and Nets are all on today, which is good, obviously. Then you got the NFL Draft Thursday. So, these next couple days got a lot of sports on. Let's get into the topics, though, for today. As I mentioned yesterday, I talked a lot about the NFL Draft yesterday. I'm not going to stop talking about the NFL Draft. I promise I will still talk about the NFL Draft. It's Tuesday. I'm going to talk a lot about it tomorrow. There's some more Caleb Farley stuff coming about a lot of NFL GMs are kind of split on what they think about him. Some think he should be taken in the first round. Some think he should be taken in the second. It's a big gamble with him because he had back issues. He has an injury history. Teams are going to, wait. If you draft him in the first round, you could be gambling a lot. You could be risking a lot. You could be risking a guy that's not going to be on the field very often. So we'll see how all that plays out. But I will talk about that tomorrow. But I know I've been talking about this I talked about this yesterday. I've talked about it throughout the weekend, not on the podcast, but to people. I got to make it a point to talk about Jacob Degrom. So today, I'm going to talk about Jacob Degrom. I'm just going to talk about how dominant he's been and kind of talk about to people. Because a lot of times everyone's always like, oh, I wish this would happen, I wish this would happen. And oh, I imagine if we got a pitcher or a hitter or someone that was this good. And sometimes when that comes around, people don't fully appreciate how good a player is or a team. We even see teams, right? If you see a team that's so good, sometimes people don't really, kind of sit there and really take it in about, wow, how good is this team, right? We've seen it with Patrick Mahomes too. Like, this is a guy who we don't witness this stuff very often. Same thing with Mike Trout in baseball. He is so good. We do not witness that stuff that often. That stuff's very rare. Mike Trouts are very rare. We might not ever see another player come around in the MLB that is as good as Mike Trout, right? So, same thing with Michael Jordan. I mean, obviously, LeBron and stuff was very good, but, when you got to see Michael Jordan and you got to see the documentary and stuff, I mean, you watch Michael Jordan, you had to save those moments. I mean, those are special times, and that's what I kind of really want to talk about here with Jacob Degrom. We're witnessing history. We're witnessing greatness when he takes the mound every 5 days, and I wanted to get into that. I really wanted to hone in on just his stats, how good he's been. And I always like to drop this in here whenever I'm talking about a pitcher. Jacob Degrom only helps my point about how useless the win-loss record is in baseball. As a pitcher. Not as a team. Obviously, win-losses, that's all that really counts as a team. I don't care how many runs you got, how many good pitchers you got. If you can't put wins on the board, that's a problem. But pitching, a win and a loss as a pitcher is the most useless stat maybe in sports and definitely in baseball. So I'll get into that. I was going to talk about Caleb Farley, but then this came out, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to talk a lot about the draft tomorrow, Thursday, and then obviously all into Friday, and then I'll probably come out on, Monday. I'll also probably talk about just, wrapping up the draft and all that stuff. So, there's going to be a lot of draft stuff coming up here in the next couple of days. I decided to talk about the NHL. So, the NHL signed a mega TV deal today. And obviously, there's been a lot of talk around the NHL and trying to grow the sport, trying to get more people to watch it. There's been some stuff going around about them trying to sign a deal with the big TV market. So, they have signed a 7-year deal with Turner Sports. So, they will have games on TNT. I believe this year there will be 3 Stanley Cup games, I think, this season on TNT. Obviously, it's a 7-game series, so they'll have 3, and then I'm sure NBC and stuff like that will have the next 4. So now ESPN, TNT will also all have the NHL. So the NHL is slowly starting to grow. I'll tell you why this is big for the sport, because a lot of people don't really like hockey or watch hockey. I know some people watch it. Some people just don't always get it on TV, and that's the truth. Some people just don't have, hockey channels. Like, for example, like I'm a Rangers fan. I usually watch the games on MSG, right? Some people don't have MSG, and if there's not a game on NBC that night, well, then you don't got anything. But now that the NHL is starting to expand, ESPN, getting it on TNT, now you're going to see almost hockey games almost every night. And I talk about this a lot of times, sometimes with basketball. We see a lot of basketball games. Almost every night I feel like there's a game on ESPN or TNT or something like that. Hockey, we don't see that. So now it's hockey's opportunity to start to grow the sport, get more people to follow it, and I'll tell you why this is pivotal for the sport of hockey. So we'll get into that. Then we'll go into New York sports update. Obviously, like I said, Yankees, Rangers, and Nets play today. Those are for my favorite teams. The Knicks snapped their 9-game win streak last night, or the Suns snapped theirs, not the Knicks. I was following that game. Obviously, I had the Yankees game on, so I wasn't watching the Knicks, but I had the Knicks, in between, commercials and innings and stuff with the Yankees. I always, pop on the phone and just look around NHL, MLB, fantasy. I look at all that stuff in between innings. And I saw that the Knicks were winning there for a while. They took like an 8-9 point lead, and then all of a sudden I checked like a little bit later, and they were losing by and then they ended up losing, and I was like, wow. I thought for sure they were winning by 8-9. And I thought for sure they were going to win the game. Obviously, I predicted the Suns to win, but with the way the game was going, it seemed like they were going to win. But obviously, the Suns took care of business, and they finished out their East Coast road trip with a win. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out for the Knicks. And then the Nets obviously play the Raptors again. Yankees and Rangers are also on tonight. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So let's talk about Jacob Degrom. Why don't we? As we all know, Jacob Degrom is arguably the best pitcher in baseball. And I want to say this first. I will get to Jacob Degrom. There's no article here I have to read, so I have even extra more time to really hone in on the numbers and the stats, right? But I kind of just want to talk about sports in general. Sports, history in sports. When a player is really good, a team is really good, dynasties, an all-time great. I really want to talk about that here for a minute or two or a little bit here. In sports, right? We see a lot of times, and this will all go back to Jacob Degrom, because Jacob Degrom, every time he goes out there and starts, we're witnessing history. He's doing something that we've never seen before, or we don't see often every time he goes out there. I mean, the guy is so dominant. His pitching, his fastball. We don't see a guy hit 100 miles an hour that often, that consistently, strikes guys out that much on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. We don't see that often. Jacob Degrom could do that. If you ask Jacob Degrom to throw fastballs the whole game, he would find a way to get through it. That's how good he is. So, that's what I'm talking about with Jacob Degrom here. And that's why I kind of want to get into the whole entire sports. Right? And a lot of times, and I did this with the Patriots too. I know the Patriots, obviously, you look back on it, they were a dynasty. They were all, I mean, you got Brady's an all-time great and stuff like that. And obviously, you really sit there and you're in wow. But, obviously, I don't like the Patriots. I couldn't stand them. So while the Patriots had that big dynasty going, I was kind of like, oh yeah, they're great and all, but I just despise them. And I don't know if you truly realized how good the New England Patriots really were during that time, or if you really want to hone into a player. Tom Brady realistically could have 3 Hall of Fame careers into one. If you split his career into 3 different parts, beginning, middle, and now, he realistically could have 3 different Hall of Fame careers combined into one career for Tom Brady. And I don't like Tom Brady at all, but when you're sitting there watching the guy win another Super Bowl, you just have to sit there and just think, like, wow, this is something that doesn't happen. We don't see a guy that this good. First of all, we don't see a guy that gets picked in the 7th round and be this good that often. We also don't get to see a guy that's just that good, period. So this is the case with Jacob Degrom. Right, we see great pitchers out there. You see them all the time. There's a lot of good pitchers in the MLB. Lucas Giolito, Garrett Cole on the Yankees. Garrett Cole, too. I think DeGrom's the best pitcher in baseball, and I think Garrett Cole's right behind him. Garrett Cole's having an amazing year. DeGrom's just breaking records all over the place. Lucas Giolito's a good pitcher. Max Scherzer. Walker Buehler, Trevor Bauer. There's so many good ones out there. They're all over the place, right? At least each team, I would say at least one team around the league has their kind of main guy. But with Jacob Degrom, like when we're watching him, and maybe you don't watch him that often, but when you get the opportunity to watch Jacob Degrom, I mean, you've got to take advantage of it. And this is a guy, now, I will be honest, I didn't see the other game where he struck out the 15th. I didn't watch last game, I will admit. I don't watch too many Mets games, but I also got to admit that I was watching the Yankees game, but I did see the highlights and stuff like that. I did look at the numbers and all that stuff. I will say that. But I've caught in many of his starts before, especially when he, playing against the Yankees and stuff. But this is a guy, when you get the opportunity to watch Jacob Degrom, you just have to sit there and just take it all in. You just have to take it all in. It's almost like when your team wins a championship. You just have to sit there and take it all in. And that's the case here with Jacob Degrom. Right? We are witnessing greatness whenever he takes the mound every 5 days. We are witnessing greatness. And we are witnessing, too, greatness consistently. We are witnessing, I get it. Doc Gooden, very good pitcher. He was awesome. That year with the Mets, just it electrified not only Mets fans and New York sports, but electrified baseball. Tom Seaver, Doc Gooden, guys like that. They're all great. They all are. I'm not taking anything away from them. But Jacob Degrom is on another level. This is a guy who makes it look easy. He rarely has a letdown game. A bad game for Jacob Degrom is maybe 1 or 2 runs allowed, 9 strikeouts in 6 innings. For a lot of pitchers out there, that's a really good start. That is probably an off night for Jacob Degrom. An average night for Jacob Degrom, 7 innings, 11 strikeouts, maybe 1 run, no walks. That's another thing, too. let's just talk about his walks for a second. A lot of times in baseball, everyone talks about strikeouts, ERA, right? Everyone wants to talk about all that stuff. But a lot of times it's the walks. Walks destroy not only pitchers, but they destroy teams. You could go from winning a game to losing it in the matter of seconds if you have a pitcher out there that can't find the strike zone. We saw last night with the Yankees. The guy, I forget his name, but he walked, 3 batters. Now, the Yankees still lost, but they sure did. It made it interesting. He obviously had the call at the plate with the run scoring and all that stuff, but the game went from 4-1 to could have been 4-3 if they let Boone challenge that call, which he got tossed on. All right, so when pitchers walk batters, we see it all the time. It destroys not only them, but it destroys the team. And it destroys their pitch count, too, because you got to throw at least 4 pitches instead of possibly getting a guy to ground out on 2 pitches. Big difference. Jacob Degrom, another thing, too, is he doesn't walk guys. He just doesn't. His ERA this season is .31. .31 is his ERA. I mean, that is just mind-boggling to me. And I get it. He's only made 4 starts this season. But there's a lot of pitchers out there who have made 4 or 5 starts so far, and the ERA is up into the 3s. And yes, Jacob Degrom's on another level, but I'm just showing you that 4 starts into the year, as a pitcher, you really don't have that excuse of, it's only 10 starts into the season, because as a pitcher, if you play all your starts, you get about 32 starts a year. So you can't make that 15 start excuse of, I'm 15 starts in the season. No, because it's a lot more. 1 start is about 1 start every 5 days. So you could have 4 or 5 games and then start again. So it's a big difference than, we're 15 games in the year, take it slow. Start-wise, 6-7 starts into the season, you could really tell what you're getting out of a pitcher. And this season, we are really getting the opportunity to really see how good Jacob Degrom is. And I've always said this about the win-loss record in baseball. It is the most useless stat in baseball. It is the dumbest, most useless stat in the entire MLB. And I will tell you why. You could go out there and throw, and Jacob Degrom had this with the Marlins. Jacob Degrom this season win-loss record is 2-1. That's tied for 20th among MLB pitchers in the MLB. Let's talk about his strikeouts. That's tied for second in the NFL, or the MLB rather. And in his ERA is .31. That's first. And he's also doing this still at 32 years old. And he barely walks guys. He's only got 3 walks this season in 4 starts. Let's also talk about that. His win-loss record, though, it's 2-1. Because he had a no decision. A no decision, you could throw 7 innings of, 2-run ball. It's, 11 strikeouts. Retire the final 9 batters. 8 of them are strikeouts. All that stuff. You could do all that, and you could get a no decision, or you could even get a loss. Because either the lineup isn't hitting, or the bullpen doesn't back you up. And that, a lot of times, is what happens to Jacob Degrom. The pitching, or the hitting, has been awful for him. It's almost like whenever he takes the mound, the bat's just quiet. And it's almost like it's vice versa. It's like he's going to hold the other team, so the lineup should take advantage of that and just crush it and destroy the other team. I feel like the lineup's almost like, Degrom's got it. He might only allow 2 runs. We'll wait into the 9th inning and try to make a comeback. That's how I feel like what the Mets do sometimes. So that's why the win-loss record's useless. If Jacob Degrom, and let me mind you, the Mets are so far doing well. They've had a very odd start to the year with all the cancellations. You had the COVID stuff with the Nationals, and their series got postponed. You had all the rainouts. Then you went to the Rockies, and you had a game that got snowed out. All that. You were playing in a game that was, below freezing, all that stuff. So the Mets have had a very weird start to the year. But they are a much better team than last season and in years before that when Degrom was still on the roster. But if Degrom was on any other team in the MLB, he would be probably like 4-0 right now. If he was on a team that's got the most dominant hitting, if he was on the Dodgers, for example, with an excellent lineup from top to bottom, 1 through 9, they got hitters all over the place, he would be 4-0. So that's why the win-loss record is useless. You could have a great start and get a no decision. You could have a great start and get a loss. It makes, the hitting has you can't control the hitting. Now, Degrom did help himself out in the other game. And I also want to talk about that. He helped himself out in the other game. And unless if Lindor's picked up an RBI since that, last I checked, he had more RBIs than Francisco Lindor, who's also the guy that's getting paid above $300 million. So let's talk about that too. And another thing with Jacob Degrom, just to add on to the greatness, he is very underpaid. And that's what I like about him. he's going to get his big money. Probably after this year, he might want it, and the Mets are going to have to give it to him. The Mets cannot. If Jacob Degrom wants a lot of money, you got to give it to him. Guy's won Cy Youngs. The way he's pitching right now, he looks like he's going to win another Cy Young. He might win the Triple Crown for pitching. But this is a guy he's just so dominant. I mean, you don't get too many players like this very often, and it's very rare to get one. And what I wanted to talk about in regards to the whole, the win-loss record, this is a guy who doesn't get many, wins or he doesn't get as many wins because his offense doesn't always back him up. But you saw when they do, he can go out there and absolutely dominate. He's got a .31 ERA this season. That's mind-boggling. The MLB average is probably like 330. He's got a .31 with 50 strikeouts, and he had 15 strikeouts in his last game. And he's only had 3 walks in 4 games. We saw last night, not trying to compare the guy last night to Jacob Degrom, but last night in the Yankees game, the guy walked 3 batters in 1 inning. Jacob Degrom in 4 starts has walked 3 batters. That, I think, stat might be even more important than the strikeouts in ERA because he doesn't walk batters. The hitters have to earn. Literally, he's had 3 walks this season. That means that he's only given up 3 free bases. Other than that, it all had to be hits, and even then, he hasn't let up many hits this season. That's seriously, you might just sit here and say, oh, wow, he's only allowed 3 walks. That's good. But if you really sit here and really think about that, I'm even kind of sitting here thinking, wow, he's only allowed 3 guys to have a free base. That's 3 walks this season. He doesn't even have enough walks he has 3 walks, which is enough to load the bases. But some guys have 15, 20 walks. That's enough to score a bunch of runs. He hasn't even allowed 1 run off of walks this season, combined with 3 walks in 4 games. Which is just amazing. And this is another thing I want to talk about too. His strikeout to walk ratio is 16.7. 16.7 is his strikeout, His strike to walk ratio is 16.7. That's what I meant. Strike to walk ratio, 16.7. That's that. So he's getting about the average so far this season, 16 strikeouts before he walks a guy, which is just insane. The average in the MLB, it's good to have a 2 walk ratio. A K to walk ratio is good. It's good to have. It's pretty good to have the K to. It's good to have a K to walk. It's pretty good to have probably a 2 K to walk. K to walk ratio. That's really good. So, guy who's 2-1 on the seasons, 4 games started. He's had let's see. He's pitched 29 innings so far, which last season in 12 starts, he pitched 69 innings. So it seems like now I want to talk about that. I kind of want to say this first of all. Now, last season was a short 60 games. He had a really great year last year, but he's almost already, just goes to show you how good of a year he's even having this season, he's almost already having more innings pitched through a couple games. Last season he pitched 12 games, 68 innings pitched. So far this season he's pitched 4 games and 29 innings pitched. So there's a chance that he even tops his total from all of last season innings pitched before he even hits the 12-game mark. And I've always said this about Jacob Degrom. I've always liked Jacob Degrom. I know a lot of people out there know that I'm not a Mets fan. I can't stand the Mets. I don't like really anybody on the Mets. But if there's a guy on the Mets that I would have to root for, and I do root for Jacob Degrom, I've always liked Jacob Degrom. It's Jacob Degrom. And the reason I've always liked him is because, A, he's really humble. And we even talked about that too, and that's the only thing I want to talk about him. You a lot of time get superstars and stuff that are, I'm the best, yeah, pull me up in the top 10 category, who do you think should win MVP? I should win MVP. This is a guy that doesn't do that often. And that's a guy that fits in New York. Because you're going to get made fun of if you're cocky and you're not living up to expectations in New York. You are. You're going to get made fun of. If you're saying all this stuff about yourself and you can't go out there and win games for your team, you're going to get made fun of. Jacob Degrom, he's not. He has the right. He could say all he wants. He's the best pitcher in baseball, but he isn't. He hasn't. He's just going out there, doing his job, dominating on the mound, The reporter asked him the other day something, a question about a Cy Young. And he's like, oh, you just got to do my job. Keep going out there, right? He's not even focused on that. He's trying to get the team wins. He's trying to help this team, obviously achieve its goals. And obviously achieve the number one goal for all of the MLB teams, and that's obviously a World Series. We see athletes, so many athletes nowadays that are really cocky. And I would rather a guy that's humble. I don't really like people that are, I don't really like athletes that are very cocky. I don't like athletes that are, I'm the best. Who do you think should win MVP? I'm the MVP, no question about it. No, I don't like that. Sometimes athletes are so zoned in on themselves than the actual team, but Degrom, that's not the case. Degrom, he's big team. He's a big team guy. And we even saw that with Garrett Cole too. He's always trying to back up his teammates. He's always, every time they ask him about how dominant he was, he's always saying how, they got good run support for me, or, they made good plays in the field, or something like that. And he's never blaming the teammates either. His last start when he played against the Rays, he could have very well blamed the terrible defense. He didn't. Instead, he kind of said that, I could have located some of my pitchers better. That's the players you like. And that's why I've grown to like Jacob Degrom. And I've also liked him because he's kind of, pitching is my favorite position and stuff, so it's another reason why too. But the guy's also 32 years old, so he's not the youngest guy out there either, and he's still throwing gas. He's still throwing 100, 101, which is just mind-boggling to me. 100 miles an hour, a lot of pitchers do it now the way. But to do it as consistently as he does, he pitches 100 miles an hour literally every single start. He literally does. He pitches 100 miles an hour literally every single start. At least a couple times a game. And that's just another one of those things that you could just sit here and just say, just wow. Just wow. And if that's all you got for Jacob Degrom, then that's fine. Because honestly, a lot of people think that too. It's just wow. It's not really anything else. It's just wow. Alright, so let's get into his 2021 stats. I know I've mentioned some of them earlier, but let's kind of review them and kind of just talk about his career stats as well. This is a guy whose win-loss record in his career, or win-loss record this season's 2-1. He obviously had the 1-0 decision. That's a stat I really can care less about. His ERA is .31. That's first in the MLB. Strikeouts is tied second in the MLB with 50 strikeouts this season. I think Shane Bieber might be the only one ahead of him, and I think Cole's up there as well. And the reason I think Shane Bieber is because Shane Bieber had 10 strikeouts in his first, 4 starts, I think? 3-4 starts? So that's 40. It might be Shane Bieber ahead of him. I'm not sure. I would have to go check. But he's definitely up there with some other great pitchers as well. Obviously, like I said, 4 games this season he's pitched. He's got a .31 ERA, like I mentioned. 29 innings pitched already. 50 strikeouts, only 3 walks. His K to walk ratio is 16.7. His career average is about 5. He's only allowed 13 hits this season. He's allowed 4 runs this season. Earned runs have been 1. Obviously, he hasn't got some help from his defense either. This is a guy who's made 187 starts in his career. He's a career record of 72 and 52. 2.55 ERA in his career. And this is a guy who really started to pick it up in 2018 when he had a 1.7 ERA. Then obviously 2019 had 2.43. Last year he had 2.38. And this season it's been .31. Now, to start his career, he was good. He was a mid-2 guy. He was in the 1 year he was a $1.69 or he was 2.69. And then in 2018 he was a $1.70. And obviously this year so far he's been 31. I think 2018 is really when he's propelled. These past 4 years have really been dominant for him. And before that he was a good pitcher. But now he's really went from being a good pitcher and a solid guy, every 5th day to a true game changer and a guy that's going to be a big impact to the team. That's what he's really done. He's pitched 1,198.2 thirds innings in his career. He averages about 149.8 innings a season, 176 Ks a year. Now, that could be a little bit messed up due to last year because he only threw 104 because he only made 12 starts and it's a 60-game season. Because he's had 3-4 years where he's gone over 200 strikeouts. So I feel like it's around that. He averaged only about 36 walks a year, which is really good considering some pitchers are big walk guys. They could walk a ton of batters in a year. This is a guy who's very good command. In his career, he's about a 5K to walk ratio is about 4.95, which is really good. Hits is 954 hits he's allowed in his career. He's about a guy that allows 150 hits a season, but that's going to happen. You're not going to allow 5 hits every year. He averages about 47 runs a year, which evens out to about a 2.55 ERA for his career. And this is a guy that's just next level. Next level greatness. And this season he's allowed 4 runs. Only one of those runs are earned. So that's just crazy. But a guy who's at 42. In his season average, he allows about 500 runs in his season average. So, which goes to show you that if it's going to be a run, it's going to be an earned run. And I understand that might be kind of an odd way to see it, but if you're going to let up runs, sometimes it might be, sometimes you got to think like an unearned run, like if he hits a batter or walks a guy, that's going to be an unearned, right? So that might be one of those kind of things that he gets it in the strike zone. When a guy makes contact, it's going to go places. You kind of just have to, anytime you see a guy make contact off of Jacob Degrom, you kind of just got to tip your hat because it's so difficult to do. When you see that kind of stuff happen, it's that Marlins player early in the year, he hit a home run off of him. You're kind of just sitting there like, wow, he just hit a home run off of Jacob Degrom. And that's another thing. Jacob Degrom just went out there and just dominated the rest of the game. So that's just another thing with Jacob Degrom. His postseason stuff has been good too. He's pitched 4 games in the postseason in 2015. He's got a 3-1 record, 2.88 ERA, 29 strikeouts, 8 walks. His K to walk ratio is about 3.6. 21 hits, 8 runs, 8 of those were earned. So another guy too that's only got 1 postseason appearance, or 4 postseason appearances, only 1 season in his career. He's pitching the postseason. That was obviously the year they made the World Series, lost to the Kansas City Royals, but still, a guy who's got some postseason experience under his belt, and I'm sure the Mets would love to get back there, because how great would it be? And this isn't just for baseball. This isn't just for Mets fans or New York sports fans or, someone like me who likes DeGrom. This is for baseball in general. They gotta, the Mets, if you want to see this guy pitch, the Mets are gonna have to get to the playoffs. And I don't want that, as much as I don't want that to happen, it's big for baseball. Because I don't like the Mets. I don't like to see them succeed. Although I'd like to see DeGrom do well because I like DeGrom. But back to my point with the World Series or playoffs. If people want to see quality pitching, if the MLB wants to boost their ratings, DeGrom's got to get to the playoffs. He's got to find a way. And that's one thing that's missing. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about it. He's probably going to win his 3rd Cy Young this season. He's got to get a World Series under his belt, which he hasn't. A World Series ring he's got there, but they didn't win it. A guy who a lot of times when they get into the Hall of Fame, they base a lot of you off of off of your postseason success and regular season success as well. But he's had success in the postseason. When he was in the postseason, he had a 2.80 ERA. And that's really good, especially for a guy that, at the time was only in his 2nd year of his career. So, a guy who was young, big, World Series, all that stuff, to maintain a 2.80 ERA. We see what happens in the World Series. You see what can happen in the playoffs when a guy gets rocked. Yankees fans saw with Luis Severino. His first start in the playoffs, he got destroyed. He pitched, 1 inning? Nerves, wasn't finding his pitches. Jacob Degrom was able to stay out there, stay calm, cool, collected, and he got the job done. So they got to find a way to get him back in the postseason if the MLB really wants to, strive. Like, imagine seeing like an NLCS matchup of Buehler Degrom or Bauer Degrom, or a playoff matchup or a big matchup late in the season that could decide a division of Scherzer Degrom or something like that. Like, that's entertaining. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I got to admit, Jacob Degrom is just dominant, and he takes dominance and he takes greatness at pitching to another level. So, Off to a very good start. And are we surprised? No, but he's putting up numbers that are really not human. So it's not surprising because it's Jacob Degrom, but at the same time, when you've got a .31 ERA, you've already struck out 50 batters, you've only walked 3, your K to walk ratio is 16.7, you're a little bit surprised because, you got to be a little surprised about that. But his strike to ball ratio, like I said, was, 16.7, very good. And then 5.8, his career it's about 5, so guy who's been able to find the zone and dominate the zone. That's what I got for Jacob Degrom. Coming up next, we're going to get into the Nhl signs a TV deal. Yes, you have heard me right. The NHL has signed a very big TV deal with Turner Sports. We've all heard about Turner Sports before. I'm sure 90% of us had. It's the host of a lot of the biggest sporting events out there, TNT, as they call it. So the NHL has agreed to a 7-year contract with them featuring Stanley Cup and Winter Classic games. So we'll talk about that and talk about how that's big for trying to grow the sport of hockey. We'll talk about all that good stuff coming up next. Alrighty. So NHL Turner Sports reveals 7-year contract featuring Stanley Cup and Winter Classic. So, yes, you heard that correctly. The NHL has agreed on a deal to have games on TNT. So before I really get into the NHL thing, I wanted to mention this. So TNT is obviously what? TNT is So there will be games, 3 Stanley Cup final games are on TNT. So that's Turner Sports, like another version of it. That's like one of their channels. So I know with Turner Sports, it's like this big thing. I know that. And then obviously TNT, you've got right now, you have NBA games on TNT. Now TNT, it's you could have anything on. You could have movies on TNT, reality shows on TNT, whatever that is. I don't watch that stuff. I watch sports. But, to my point with TNT though, like basketball games, for example, could be on there. That's like a nationally televised game and stuff like that. So that's TNT. So there's going to be 3 Stanley Cup games this season on TNT, and we've seen that with sports. So for example, like the MLB playoffs, they get it on TBS. You get playoffs on MLB. You'll get playoffs in ESPN. You'll get it all over the place. The NFL, same thing. You'll get it on CBS, Fox, ESPN. You'll get playoffs all over the place on the NFL. The NBA, you'll get it on TNT, ABC, ESPN, and that's probably about it. Now, the NHL, on the other hand, before they did it with the ESPN deal and now Turner Sports, nationally televised game for hockey was NBC, either NBC, like the NBC, or you have NBC Sports, NBCSN, I think, Sports. So you had one of those two. And NBC is like the one with, your news and stuff on that, and you have a hockey game on there. And then you have another NBC, which is the one with, all the sporting events. I think sometimes when I'm scrolling through, there's soccer games on there. I know they do golf. I don't watch any of that stuff. I only will go to if there's a hockey game on. So that's that. But now I believe they signed some sort of deal with ESPN to where they'll have a deal with ESPN. And then now you have a deal with Turner Sports. And popularity in sports, I would say, is it's pretty heavy, one-sided or the other. I would say out of all the sports, the least popular is probably NHL. Not many people watch it. There's just not many people watch it. It's just how it is. And it's not, I have no problem if you don't watch it. A lot of people too, the part of it is because you can't always get all the games. You might get 1 or 2 games here and there, but other than that, it's kind of tough to watch hockey. Now, I've always said this about hockey. I think a lot of people, they get thrown off by hockey because of the score. If they see it's a 3-2 game, they're kind of bored. They might be like, oh, that game has like no action. And they might look at an NFL game and be like, oh, the score was 42-38. Wow, that had a lot of action. Or you look at an NBA game and it's in the hundreds, 140s. Oh, wow, that has a lot of action. But hockey, to me, is one of the funnest, one of my favorite sports to watch. It's just so much action. And yes, the scores might be low, but it's a constant action. There's not many stoppages of play in hockey. We've seen that before. Actually, a Rangers game this season, and I'm not joking when I say this. We were playing the Bruins. It was on NBC. It went 9 minutes. So the puck dropped, 10 and 20-minute quarters, 3 20-minute quarters, as we all know. The puck dropped. There wasn't a stoppage of play until like the 12-11 minute mark. It was like 8 straight minutes of just straight hockey. 8 straight minutes of just straight action. There wasn't any pauses. It was now, sure, do you get games where, do you get games where it seems like the game can never get going? Yeah, there are. There's games with that all over the place. You get that in the NFL, where you get a game that just seems like it takes forever. You get it, too, in the NBA, where there's always there's a stoppage of play, it seems like every second. Like the play resumes, and there's a stoppage. We've seen that in the MLB, too. There's stoppage of play really after each pitch, but we've seen where some games it's just either a pitcher can't find the zone or it's a slugfest and it takes 4 hours to, end. It takes 4 hours to be completed. And we see that in the NHL sometimes. I've timed it perfectly because I've watched so many games this season where it's about a 2.5 hour game. Do you, sure. Do you get some 2 hour, 45-minute games? Yeah. Sometimes games, and I've had this with the Rangers this season, where you find yourself sitting there for like 15 minutes and it's only like 3. You find yourself sitting there. You've been sitting there for like 15 minutes watching the game, and they're only like 5 minutes into the game because you feel like every play, there's a puck out of play, or it's a save. And sometimes you can see that. That's in all sports. That's not just in the NHL. But that's what I think. A lot of people, I feel like, get thrown off by the score. It's just, 1-0 game, that must have been boring. No, you can have many different, you can have so much different stuff. Highlight plays, constant action, going back and forth. Everyone always complains about how boring a game's going or something. The NHL, you could see 5-6 minutes of just straight action. You could just see 5 straight minutes of just straight on action. And I find myself doing that a lot. I find myself just looking at the screen the whole time, just staring at it. And then finally a stoppage of play comes. And there's obviously chances in the game. There's moments where it makes you get up out of your seat. Or a power play. Or, a nice save. Or a one-time chance. It's not like that's not like the goal that scored was their only chance to score in the game. We've seen times, the Rangers had it earlier in the year, they had 50 shots on goal. You could see 90 shots on goal in an NHL game. Sure, maybe only 2 of them go in. But the other 88 there could have been 20 golden chances, and you could watch 90, 95 shots on goal in a game. Average, it's probably about 60, given about 25 to 35 or 30 to 30 each team or something like that. It's probably about 65 to 70, but we've seen some games, we saw it early in the year with the Rangers, where we saw the Rangers shot 50 shots on goal, and I believe the Devils shot like 35 to 40. That's like 90 shots on goal. It's a lot of action. It's a lot of chances. It's a lot of opportunities on net. It's a lot of standing up out of your seat. That's a lot of keeping your eyes on the screen. That's a lot of, another chance. Another chance. Another chance. I feel like hockey gets a bad rap because of the score, or, because it's not popular, not as popular. Even sometimes, not all the biggest names are in hockey. When you talk about the top athletes, right now, everyone thinks of, the NFL players and, the Mahomeses and the Trouts and all those people. And you don't really get into all the hockey of the Austin Matthews, the Connor McDavids, the Panarins, the Crosbys, the McDavids like I mentioned, right? Not many people talk about that. So I feel like this is a great opportunity for hockey to grow the sport, to get it on more platforms, to get it on more television platforms so people can watch it. And I think this definitely is a good opportunity to grow the sport. And sure, the NHL doing this a lot, the money and stuff, it helps with the revenue they're going to gather. But it's also to try to grow the sport. Because as of right now, it's your team's network, like MSG for the Rangers, and if they're on NBC. That's how it is. And, now it's a great opportunity to get it on some other TV, channels, and, a lot more people, you could very well see watching now. So, Let's read this quick article here. So the NHL Turner Sports reveals 7-year contract featuring Stanley Cup and Winter Classics. So those are really the two biggest events in hockey, and they will have it all on there. So the NHL and Turner Sports announced a 7-year contract Tuesday that's highlighted by broadcast rights for the Stanley Cup playoffs and the annual Winter Classic outdoor game beginning with the 2021-2022 NHL season. Turner Sports will air half of the league's yearly postseason games on TNT and TBS as a part of a split with ESPN, the NHL's other new media rights partner, and broadcast 3 of the 7 Stanley Cup Final Series throughout the duration of the deal. So, TBS, TNT are for Turner Sports. Obviously, the MLB playoffs are on TBS. We see a lot on, we saw in the March Madness, they got it on CBS. They get it on TBS, TNT. You get it all over the place for March Madness. They're big with Turner Sports as well. The NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman released a statement about the agreement. Turner Sports is known, this is what it said. So Turner Sports is known for its outstanding sports coverage, quality, and innovation, and we are thrilled this is a new partnership. We'll provide our fans with the content they love on the platforms and devices of their choice. TNT is a proven and acclaimed destination for sports fans, and we will also benefit from the deep connection Bleacher Report has with the young digital savvy fans. Having Warner Media join the NHL family as a co-rights holders for the next 7 years gives us an incredible reach, positions us well for the future as the media landscape continues to evolve and will fuel continued growth of the NHL for the NHL and our clubs. So that was just there's a chairman of Warner Media News and Sports. He kind of said that. I'm not going to get into that. That's kind of just the whole deal and stuff, but it's another thing I wanted to mention. Along with the Winter Classic, a staple around New Year's Day that changes host cities every year in the playoff games. The contract includes 72 regular season contests, streaming options via HBO Max, highlight rights, and the ability to create ancillary programming, such as studio shows similar to Inside the NBA, which is an awesome opportunity too, because we see it on NBC, but other than that, there's no real hockey pre-shows out there, right? Inside the NBA, that's like a pre-show. It goes around the MLB. So now it could be like Inside the NHL in a way. Further details about Turner Sports NHL coverage will be released in the months ahead. The league is planning to move closer to its typical October to June timeframe next season. The start of the current campaign was delayed until mid-January because the prior season Stanley Cup wasn't awarded until September, after delays related to the coronavirus pandemic. ESPN Greg Wyshowski reported Wednesday the NHL is hoping to start the 2021-2022 season October 12th, about a week later than normal given that the Stanley Cup final concludes in mid-July. Those dates are contingent on the current season's completion without delays. In addition, the NHL hasn't finalized a decision about whether to release players to represent their national teams in the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, which would require a multi-week break in the schedule. The league skipped the 2018 games in South Korea. Andrew Marchand of the New York Post reported the new media agreement with ESPN and Turner Sports will generate around $625 million per year for the NHL. The league was previously exclusive to NBC Sports on television, though ESPN had required streaming rights in recent years for its ESPN Plus platform. So, obviously, a great opportunity for the NHL to grow and hopefully get more viewers. So Turner Sports agreed to a 7-year, obviously multi-year platform. I want to read through some of the stuff. So TNT to broadcast the following for the next 7 seasons. Stanley Cup final for 3 of the next 7 seasons. Half of the Stanley Cup playoffs for the next 7 seasons. And every Winter Classic for the next 7 seasons. So every Winter Classic. So that's every Winter Classic. That's pretty crazy. New partnership includes live streaming and simulcast rights on HBO Max, digital and highlight rights on Bleacher Report, and BR Digital Experience and events for the next generation of hockey fans. So, the Stanley Cup and stuff obviously is big, but I thought the Winter Classic too, and I saw that, that's a lot of Winter Classic games, that's a lot of games. And they will be covering 72 regular season games as well. So, it's a great opportunity. And you obviously got ESPN, TNT, TBS, and then obviously the local channel, and obviously NBC. Now all of a sudden, hockey went from really only being on NBC for the National Games to growing here. And that's big for the sport. Definitely think you'll definitely see ratings get higher and a lot more people hopefully get into it. That's how I see it. So, big deal there. Pretty big. That's pretty big news. That's big news there. So, but we'll see how it all plays out. And, yeah, obviously, hopefully the coverage and the announcers and all that stuff is all good. So, that's what I got on the NHL and the Turner Sports Agreement. Let's get into the New York Sports Update to finish out this Tuesday edition of the podcast. Yesterday in the NBA, the Kings won, Nuggets won, Timberwolves won, Bulls won, Pelicans won, Suns won, Spurs won, Raptors won, Lakers won, 76ers won, and Pistons won. Today we've got a couple games on. We got the Bucks Hornets. I'll give Bucks to win. Celtics Thunder. I'll give Celtics to win. Trailblazers Pacers. Give Trailblazers to win. Timberwolves Rockets. Give Timberwolves to win. And Warriors Mavericks. Give Warriors to win. Nets also play today. Nets come in this game 41-20. Raptors come in this game 26-35. The Nets are 6.5 point favorites. The over/under is 231.5 for this game. This game comes on today, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Yes Network. I'll give the Nets the win. I don't think they should have any problem taking care of the Raptors. I will give the Nets the win. As for the NHL games, yesterday the Sharks won, Kings won, Predators won, Stars won, Blues won, Senators won, Canadiens won, and Oilers won. As for today in the NHL, we got the Bruins, Penguins. I'll give Penguins the win. Flyers, Devils, give Flyers the win. Islanders, Capitals, give Islanders the win. Blue Jackets, Red Wings, give Blue Jackets the win. Lightning, Blackhawks, give Lightning the win. Panthers, Predators, give Panthers the win. And Hurricanes, Stars, give Hurricanes the win. As for the NHL, as for the Rangers, we got the Rangers versus the Sabres today. The over-under for this, Rangers come in this game 25-18-6. Sabres come in this game 13-29-7. The over-under for this game is 6. This game goes on today, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find this game on MSG Buffalo, and you can find this game just on MSG. I'm going to give the Rangers the win. I don't think they should have any problem with the worst team in NHL. I think the Rangers continue the little win streak they got on here. As for the MLB, yesterday the Reds won, Giants won, Astros won, Angels won, Marlins won, Braves won, Phillies won, A's won, Indians won, and Royals won. The Yankees took a tough loss yesterday, 4-2, moved to 19-13 on the season. There's not much I got to say. As for today, we got the Indians, Twins. I'll give Indians the win. Royals, Pirates, give Royals the win. Blue Jays, Nationals, give Blue Jays the win. Rays, A's, give Rays the win. Mets, Red Sox, I'll give you that in a little bit here. Braves, Cubs, give Braves the win. Brewers, Marlins, give Brewers the win. Phillies, Cardinals, give Phillies the win. Angels, Rangers, give Angels the win. Astros, Mariners, give Astros the win. White Sox, Tigers, give White Sox the win. Padres, Diamondbacks, give Padres the win. Giants, Rockies, give Giants the win. Dodgers, Reds, give Dodgers the win. As for the Mets play against the Red Sox today. This game's on ESPN, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Richards on the mound for the Red Sox. Peterson on the mound for the Mets. I think the Mets should take care of business. I'll give them a win. As for the Yankees play today. Yankees come in this game 9-13. Orioles come in this game 10-12. Kluber's on the mound for the Yankees. Zimmerman's on the mound for the Orioles. The Yankees are 1.5 point favorites. This game comes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find this game on Mason and also Pix 11 as well. I know the Yankees have dominated the Orioles over the years, but prove to me you can beat them this series, and I'll give you a win. The way the Yankees are hitting, I don't know. I guess the Orioles there. Hopefully the Yankees win, but we're a joke right now with our hitting and our overall play. Not playing good. As for fantasy baseball, I'm currently losing 31-10. But today I've got going Yerman Mercedes, Matt Olson, Jake Cronenworth, Josh Donaldson, Carlos Correa, Jed Lowry, Alex Bregman, Whit Merrifield, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, Michael Taylor, and Jorge Soler. And on my pitching, I got Chris Paddock, Frankie Montas, and Zach Eflin on the mound. As for fantasy basketball, I'm currently losing 1,839 to 1,629. Today I've got going Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Kyrie Irving, Pascal Siakam, And Kemba Walker is out. Walker will not play Tuesday's game against the Thunder due to a strained left side. So he is out there. And as for fantasy hockey, in the championship, I'm currently losing 37-31. But today I've got going Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Braden Point, Nicholas Backstrom, Joe Pavelski, Ryan Strome, and James Van Riemsdyk. And I got Semyon Varlamov and Igor Shesterkin in goal. So that's what I'm rolling out again there. So we'll see how all that plays out. Alrighty, so let's see here. All right, I was just looking at a quick thing on fantasy. So that's what I got for the podcast. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast. We are now only 2 days away from the NFL draft. So that's really good. Mock draft I have not done yet. I will probably do that. I will start it probably tomorrow. I mean, I have a good idea of who I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do, because it's kind of funny because after the year ends, obviously you got the whole, coaching and stuff like that. I'm gonna look over all that stuff. Then you get into free agency, then all trades and free agency and stuff. And then when it hits April, I'm kind of all full zoned in onto the draft for the NFL. And I kind of I look over a bunch of different players, options, where they could go, trades. So, but that will do it for the podcast. So, hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.